The Middle States Commission on Higher Education tells us that a design for self-study is a blueprint for the self-study process and for the final self-study report. It guides the steering committee and working groups in their discussion, research, and writing, and the self-study report builds on the original design document. I'm Norbert Elliot, Chair of the NJIT Middle States Commission on Higher Education Self-Study, and I will present this podcast on the unique NJIT Self-Study design. The NJIT Self-Study, in its present form, is depicted as a variable model. That is, the NJIT Steering Committee and working groups have identified and validated 5 predictor variables, or independent variables, that when taken successfully and together will allow us to achieve a successful self-study design, the dependent or outcome variable of the model. This design will, in turn, allow us to create a successful and meaningful accreditation process that will conclude in the spring of 2012. Let me take you through the 5 predictor variables. The first, research, is congruent with the mission of NJIT as New Jersey's Science and Technology University, and that NJIT is driven by an emphasis on applied interdisciplinary efforts. It is appropriate that the MSCHE self-study be understood as a research project undertaken in institutional effectiveness. Hence, models from the physical and social sciences will provide us with meaningful ways to gather evidence and form heuristics that will, in equally good scientific fashion, undergo review in the spirit of Karl Popper's falsifiability premise, the logical possibility that an assertion can be shown false by observation. Such models will allow us to test the validity of our claims. The second variable, evidence, is informed by the evidence-centered design movement in educational measurement. Simply put, evidence-centered design, as explained by Robert J. Mislavy, yields an articulated framework for designing, producing, and delivering educational assessments, and that Mislavy advocates building models that feature complex learning developments that lie beyond elementalist procedures. Evidence-centered design will allow the steering committee and working groups to establish a coherent framework for the self-study. The third element of the model, establishing objectives, lends a behavioral framework to the self-study design. Here the model is informed by the NJIT VISTA model. This method, used by NJIT President Robin Altenkirk in his strategic planning, a process that well addresses the demands of MSCHE Standard 7 institutional assessment, will help us to create a vision for the self-study, design strategies that will allow study validity, and develop tactics, specific actions that we'll take to execute the self-study. The fourth variable compels us to be document-centered. At the end of the day, the self-study itself will carry the accountability argument for NJIT. Hence, our model is focused on ways to capture the efforts of our working groups, design of information, and reader-centeredness. The self-study will thus be informed by Roland Barthes's idea of writerly text that allows access to the magic of the signifier, to the pleasure of writing. The fifth variable, awareness of shareholders, is informed by the diverse constituencies at NJIT. Indeed, in metaphor, our vision of shareholders, students and faculty, administrators and board members, neighbors near and far, is informed by the work of steering committee member Marguerite Schneider and her proposal for understanding organizations not as hierarchical, but rather as linked in values. The sixth variable defines an emphasis on milestones, the time-sensitive demands that must be in place as we ask for meetings, reports, review from the 7 working groups who will perform the research and writing of our final report. Thus far, our variable model has served us well. We believe that it will continue to do so because of its congruence with the orientation toward investigation that is the hallmark of the NJIT community.